President Bola Tinubu in Equatorial Guinea to hold bilateral meetings on oil and gas security. Nigerian Senate frowns at non-appearance of agencies for accountability.
Office of the Accountant General. Mining Cadastral Office. 3. Federal Inland Revenue.
Nigeria to generate 6,000 megawatts of electricity by 2024.
What we're trying to do is to target 6,000 megawatts by the end of this year.
Hello and thanks for joining us on the news desk at 6 on NTA News 24. We're live in Abuja. I am Dennis Adegunloye. President Bola Tinubu is in Malabo, Equatorial Guinea on a 3-day official visit to honor the invitation of President Teodoro Obiang Nguema Mbasogo. The president took off at about 1 on Wednesday and the chairman, Nigerian Governors Forum and Kwara State Governor Abdurrahman Abdurrazak, as well as the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, were among those who bade farewell to the President at departure. An earlier statement by the Presidential Advisor on Media and Publicity, Ajuri Nglale, indicates that President Tinubu will meet with the Equatorial Guinea President at the Presidential Villa on arrival, where meetings will be held between the two leaders and agreements, particularly on oil and gas security, signed. On the trip with the President are the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tugar, and other members of his cabinet who will be involved in the signing of agreements and review of opportunities to improve bilateral relations. The Senate Committee. The federal government has assured development partners that the Tinubu administration will fully support initiatives aimed at alleviating the suffering of persons displaced by conflict and natural disasters within and outside Nigeria's borders. Vice President Kashim Shettima gave the assurance when he received a delegation from the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, led by its Assistant High Commissioner for Operations, Rauf Mazu, during a courtesy visit at the Presidential Villa. State House correspondent Abdurrahman Jibrila reports.
The meeting started with acknowledgement of the United Nations system support for Nigeria over the years, which has assisted in addressing challenges in the northeast and the nation as a whole, and addressing critical issues affecting the well-being of citizens and other persons affected by conflict and natural disasters in the country. Vice President Kashim Shettima said government is open to new ideas for collaboration, especially the UN's emphasis on sustainable resettlement of refugees. Vice President Shettima noted that the Nigerian government acknowledges and understands the difficulty of the situation in the Sahel region, noting the challenges experienced in the country were unique, assuring that the president is working round the clock to get things right by diversifying the economic base of the nation.
Generally, the fact that we need to gradually shift from a model that is more based on humanitarian assistance to one that moves more towards self-reliance, and that's something that His Excellency the Vice President appreciated a lot. Even if one finds himself or herself in a situation of displacement, one still has skills that one can contribute to the economy of the community that is receiving that person. So it is important that we partner with development actors to make sure that we go beyond just providing humanitarian assistance, and that was a point that was raised.
The United Nations delegation also highlighted Nigeria's exemplary treatment of refugees and discussed plans for enhancing support and transitioning towards sustainable development strategies. acknowledging host communities who are playing essential roles in making sure that the refugees are resettled, which is a new approach aimed at addressing long-standing issues of dependency on aid and facilitate easier reintegration when refugees return to their home countries. From the State House, Abraham Jibrila, NTA News.
The Senate Committee on Public Accounts says it will not be frustrated by a persistent evasive disposition of chief accounting officers of some ministries, departments and agencies of government to honour its invitations, as such agencies would soon bear the consequences. This is with regards to the non-appearance of the affected MDAs to respond to queries raised against them, as contained in the Auditor General's report. Briefing journalists on the developments, the Senate Public Accounts Committee said the attitude of the agencies is contrary to the commitments of President Bola Tinubu to ensure transparency and accountability in the running of the business of government.
Office of the Accountant General of the Federation. 2. Nigeria Mining Cadastral Office. 3. Federal Inland Revenue Service. 4. Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, former DPR. 5. Nigeria Police Force. 6. Federal Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. 7. FCT Internal Revenue Service. 8. Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited. 10. Nigeria Immigration Service. 11. Federal Ministry of Women Affairs. 12. Ministry of Defense. 13. Nigeria Communications Satellite Limited and others.
The committee resolves to consider and adopt the position of the Auditor General as reflected in the audit queries. Meanwhile, the House of Representatives Special Committee investigating crude oil theft is advocating special funding for the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps and the Nigeria Customs Service to enable them to tackle the menace in the country. Chairman of the committee, Al-Hassan Dogwa, at a resumed hearing, attributed the trend of economic sabotage arising from crude oil theft to dwindling capacity of the security agencies to effectively combat oil bunkering, while urging the agencies to justify the need for special intervention funds.
With a report where this agency of government or this security agencies is actually carried along, and you must also be part and parcel of this special intervention. Unfortunately, these are interventions that have been given specially, and it's not been on our statutory appropriation law. I feel if you can be able to convince the committee that the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps is doing this much, this will help us, I think, be able to address this problem we are facing.
At a separate hearing, the House Committee on Basic Examination Bodies has asked the National Office of the West African Examination Council to provide a statement of accounts on its expenditures since 2022 in a bid to ascertain compliance with fiscal and parliamentary approvals.
Book and statement of account. If you ask me to bring my statement of account and I go and bring a cash book, are they the same?
If we need a bank statement, let the request be in bank statement. And if it comes that way, like I informed you, I'm under authority, I will follow the protocol, and I will plead that you give us 2 weeks so that we will get the necessary approvals and revert back with the request.
The committee has adjourned sitting to a later date. Meanwhile, Speaker of the House of Representatives, Tajuddin Abbas, has withdrawn the counter-subversion bill and related draft legislation from consideration by the Green Chamber. The bill, initially sponsored by the Speaker, sought to criminalise destruction of national symbols and prescribe penalties for illegal actions that threaten national security. The withdrawal counter-subversion bill, which passed first reading of the House on July 23rd, has been subjected to criticism and controversy in media space. This led the Speaker to issue an initial clarification that the bill was not targeting any group or section of the country. Consequently, in response to the voices and concerns of the citizens, the Speaker says he has decided to withdraw the bill following extensive consultations with a broad range of stakeholders and a careful consideration of the nation's current circumstances. Elsewhere, Speaker of the ECOWAS Parliament, Memunatu Ibrahima, is calling on ECOWAS member states to scale up funding for the institution to meet up with its prevailing multifaceted challenges. Ibrahima stated this during the Parliament's Joint Committee meeting on Administration, Budget, Finance, Public Accounts and Economic Research in Abidjan, Ivory Coast. ECOWAS correspondent Mohamed Rabiu Ali reports.
The West Africa sub-region is currently facing economic difficulties which threaten the execution and realization of the community projects and programs that necessitated increased funding by member states. Speaker ECOWAS Parliament says the current context is marked by the global repercussions of recession and inflation, provoking international tension and the security threats within the region, hence the need for more collaboration.
That the freedom which our founding fathers desired through their fight becomes a reality.
Vice President of the Ivorian National Assembly, Diwara Mamadou, and other stakeholders stressed the need for transparency and accountability in discharging the community's resources and for the intended purposes by the executive.
A primary function of budgeting is to ensure an organization has enough resources to meet its goals. Through effective financial planning, one can determine the programs and activities require more resources.
The committee meetings are to allow the lawmakers to better understand the challenges of budgeting of the community, thereby to strengthen and consolidate the collaboration between the ECOWAS Parliament and other community institutions. Mohamed Rabiu Ali, NTA News.
In other news, the enactment of the DICON Act 2023 has positioned Nigeria's military-industrial complex to advance strategic goals in defense, manufacturing and technology for crucial modernization of the armed forces in alignment with the national strategy. President Bola Tinubu, represented by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, made the emphasis at the Africa Defense Industries Conference, which coincided with the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria at 60. Defense correspondent Olajide Bello reports.
"60 years and still waxing stronger." DICON has over the years grown in leaps and bounds with the newly automated production lines for various categories of ammunition, man-resistant ambush patrol vehicles, armored personnel carrier, drones and unmanned ground vehicles, with a view to provide the armed forces with advanced equipment tailored to our contemporary challenges, providing troops with the required advantage over adversaries.
The proposed state-of-the-art micro motherboard processing facility will be the backbone of robotics and artificial intelligence innovations, leveraging resources from our newly inaugurated lithium development plant in Nasarawa State.
This new legal framework empowers DICON to operate with a greater autonomy and efficiency, enhancing its ability to meet the evolving defense need of our nation.
The introduction of the DICON Act 2023 is designed to address performance gaps within the military-industrial sector and to elevate DICON to a prominent global position as envisioned by the founding fathers.
As African nations continue to confront threats to peace and stability, it is essential that we work together to enhance our defense capabilities and foster regional cooperation.
Over the decades, DICON has evolved significantly, adapting to the dynamic landscapes of military technology and global defense trends.
The Made in Africa Defense Industries Conference is a convergence of defense experts, industry leaders, policymakers and innovators from across Africa and beyond to foster collaboration and explore new frontiers in defense technology. Olajide Bello, NTA News.
You're watching the News Desk at 6 on NTA News 24. More reports in a moment. Stay with us.
Nigeria, a land of rich culture and diverse voices, where every voice matters. In times of disagreement, let's choose dialogue over discord. Together, we can find solutions through understanding and respect. Let's build a stronger Nigeria, one conversation at a time. Dialogue, not protest. Unity, not division. Nigeria, united in dialogue.
Welcome back. The National Counter-Terrorism Center, Office of the National Security Advisor, is adopting a whole-of-society approach to the ongoing fight against terrorism and violent extremism. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa reports that the coordinator of the center, Major General Adamu Garba Laka, stated this while interfacing with media executives and news editors in Abuja.
The need to balance between the right to know and the quest to protect and project national security necessitated this event. Terrorism and violent extremism strive with adequate media publicity, hence the need for effective gatekeeping and communication management to support the ongoing whole-of-society approach to countering extremist ideology.
The National Counterterrorism Center sees the media as critical partners in the fight against terrorism and for us to be on the same page. This meeting is to enable us draw from your wealth of knowledge and experience with the hope to spark a conversation that will set tangible agenda.
As gatekeepers of information, you are not just reporters of news. You are also shapers of public perception, influencers of policy.
Constant and unfortunate publication of unverified information that continue to constitute threats to national security, promote terrorist propaganda, were issues that have been of concern to every patriot.
This strategic communication management with media executives and news editors is geared towards understanding public information dissemination platforms and strategies for utilization to counter extremist narratives.
The media plays a major role in not actually creating sensations, not actually making big headlines. It's not all about making profit per se. I think it should be all about national security, national integrity, building trust.
We are to do our jobs fairly within the context of objectivity, fairness, and balance. But as we do this, we must also understand that we hold the society a fundamental role not to overheat the politics.
The National Counter-Terrorism Center, Office of the National Security Advisor, coordinates ongoing fight against terrorism. In Abuja, Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Nigeria is working towards tracking and monitoring the level of its carbon reduction initiative in every sector. Minister of Science, Technology and Innovation, Uche Naji, says the process will not only assess impact on climate change, but economic growth and employment opportunities under government's green economy policies. Joseph Otsen reports that this was at the presentation of tracking and monitoring technology in Abuja.
Nigeria is committed to cutting emissions by 20% by 2030 as it joins the global community target of net zero emission by 2060. The adoption of the National Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency Policy in 2015 to promote use of solar, wind, biomass, and hydropower sources remains one of the major initiatives. But without adequate tracking and monitoring, experts say measuring progress made remain elusive.
We've seen that data reliability, data authenticity, data auditability, and also in terms of the transparency they've been major issues, across Africa. So this technology now have been developed to resolve the problems in real time and also provide a much more better trust and transparency in terms of the emission reduction across the entire African continent.
Now the federal government wants to assess its efforts towards reducing emission and policies on the green economy as it collaborates with Netzen to develop a tracking and monitoring tool called Closed Carbon.
The Green Bond Initiative, by mobilizing over 57 billion naira in green finance, we have funded critical low-carbon projects that are transforming our economy and creating jobs.
That we have made our accessibility to our platform free, where we deploy all our devices to businesses who are trying to reduce carbon. So what we go there is that we install our devices, help them to track, and and reward them for offsetting carbon.
Having an idea of the progression and value of policies implemented so far, to experts here, will also be a shining light on other economic opportunities. In Abuja, Joseph Oten, NTA News.
The Federal Ministry of Power says it is targeting 6,000 megawatts of electricity by the end of 2024, as it is currently generating 5,105 megawatts of power, the highest in the past 3 years, representing 20% increase in power supply. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu said this during his visit to the Calabar Generating Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited. Maureen Leo Ajom reports.
The minister, who undertook a tour of facilities at the Calabar Generating Company Limited, Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited, expressed satisfaction with the state of infrastructure at the plant built about 10 years ago and commended the management of the plant, stating that it is the most active among the 10 Niger Delta Power Holding Company Limited in the country. The minister stated strategies of the ministry in ensuring the achievement of its target of 6,000 megahertz of power in the country at the end of the year to include legislation, policy, transmission infrastructure development and the pricing, while calling on consumers to pay their bills, stop power theft and vandalization.
What we are trying to do is to target 6,000 megawatts by the end of this year. I believe more improvement will be witnessed by electricity consumers. We all know what led to this is the increased generation, is the work that we're also doing in enhancing the state of transmission infrastructures, while the distribution companies are also raising their games in maintaining their own distribution infrastructure.
The managing director of the Calabar Niger Delta Power Holding Company and the commissioner for power in Cross River State reiterated commitment to ensure the maintenance of the facility and generation of power to make the target in the country.
Cross River State is very ready. We want to go into full business of power, generation, transmission and distribution. It's a 625 megawatt power plant. If the weather is cool, it can give you up to 600. If the very hot at 31 degrees, it can give you up to 562 megawatts.
In Calabar, Maureen Leo Ajom, NTA News.
Former President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed sadness over the death of a veteran teacher, Malam Abdullahi Labu Ambursa, the father of Mohammed Labu, a journalist and former executive director news of the Nigerian Television Authority. A statement by Garba Shehu, the spokesperson to the former president, states that Labu Ambursa died at 93 on Tuesday and was buried in Kaduna, where he resided. Muhammadu Buhari said the late Labu made, quote, an invaluable contribution in the formation of many northern boys and girls who grew up to serve the nation in key positions, including ministers and military as well as police service leaders, many of whom have the satisfaction of having been guided by him in their lives. The former president extends his condolences to the Labo family and the government and people of Kebbi State over this sad loss. And with that, we conclude the news desk at 6 on NTA News 24. Thanks for watching. I am Dennis Adigunloye.